am here with Donald Mustard. Chair is very busy right now. You guys just launched Shadow Complex for all the Xbox One owners out there. Tell me a little bit about bringing back Shadow Complex and giving people that food that they've been lingering for more.
Well, so, we are just huge fans of Shadow Complex, just like everyone else who's had a chance to play it or hear about it. And it's been our goal, ever since Shadow Complex came out originally 6 years ago, to bring it to a wider market, to bring it to other platforms other than just the Xbox 360. And so it's really exciting to be able to, just yesterday, launch it on Xbox One and announce that in May you'll be able to play it on PlayStation 4 and on Steam. So it's really cool.
So what is it about the game you think people were clamoring for more, and now the fact that they only got to play it on Xbox 360, but now you can play it on PC, you can play it on your Xbox One, and soon you're going to be able to play it on your PlayStation 4?
Well, I think it's got a lot to do with the genre, right? If you look at the games that inspired it, Super Metroid and like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, there was almost no entries in the genre for almost 10, 15 years. Like, just people weren't making non-linear exploration-based side-scrollers. And to us, that was a travesty. We're like, we have to make a game like this. We need to show modern gamers how awesome this genre is, and that was really what inspired us to make Shadow Complex. And at the time, we didn't know. We didn't know if there were other gamers like us that wanted a game like that. And we were shocked and surprised and amazed at how successful Shadow Complex was. But then kind of immediately the cry started beginning of saying, how can I play this on my platform of choice? And kind of through that process there was something else that came up in our world, which was Infinity Blade, and that kind of became a big focus of Chair for a number of years. But we've always been trying to find a way to be able to bring Shadow Complex to a wider audience, and finally the opportunity came that we were able to work it out with Microsoft that we could do that. And we jumped on the opportunity and were able to kind of remaster the game, put in all the original source art, and even add a few new little secrets. And now, there's an opportunity to play Shadow Complex again or play it for the first time if you've never played it before.
And I was going to say, the game is the remastered Shadow Complex. What makes it remastered for those who might not have played the original?
Well, it's actually kind of tricky because the original is so beloved, right? And if you look at a game like Shadow Complex, so it's much more about this onion layer that you kind of discover over time and you reveal more of the world. We had to make sure that remained untouched. Like, we can't change the core fundamental loop of Shadow Complex. But back in 2009 when we were making it, we authored a lot of the content at a much higher resolution than we were able to put on the Xbox 360 at the time. And so that allowed us to actually go and put in all of our original art files, all our original sound files, and really make the game a lot higher resolution. That said, while we were doing it, we had, between Shadow Complex 1 and us making Infinity Blade, there were several months where we were working on what would become, or could become, Shadow Complex 2. And there was a few features that we were working on there that we thought were so perfect that we had to put them into Shadow Complex Remastered. And so there's a couple cool things that are hidden in there for people that want to try it out.
Well, you said the magic word with the Shadow Complex 2 thought process. Is that something still in the chair?
I desperately want to find a way to make more Shadow Complex, or at least more Metroidvania type games. And we have what we think is a very innovative, very forward-looking design for what a Shadow Complex 2 could be. That said, right now we are deeply involved in making our next game, which is Spy Jinx. It's a game we're making with J.J. Abrams. But we'll see. I think Shadow Complex Remastered gives us an opportunity to look at how much people want a game like this. And if people want games like Shadow Complex Remastered, then I think there's absolutely... actually, let me say it this way. I will make Shadow Complex 2 at some point. It's just a matter of when. And you can help us have a better argument for moving that forward as to moving it backwards, right?
You mentioned working hard on your next title, Spy Jinx. How does that phone call go? JJ's like, you know what, Donald, I would really like to make a game together. How did that happen?
It was almost that, right? No, it turns out that J.J. Abrams.
He's a huge Shadow Complex fan. That's how it all came about.
He is now, right? But at the time, no, he had his son was a big Infinity Blade fan, and he would get stuck on some of the bosses, and he would go to Dad and be like, "Help me with this." And so his dad, JJ started playing Infinity Blade and really loved it, and started getting into the story. And he'd seen us on stage with Apple, and was like, this is someone that we really respect and want to talk to. At the same time, like, I'm a huge JJ fan, right? And so a meeting got set up where we were just gonna meet and say hi to each other. And I'm like, sweet, here's my literally my notebook full of Lost questions. Here it comes, And I thought that's all it was gonna be, but we started talking, and the more we talked, the more we realized we really had a lot in common. We had similar approaches to production, similar approaches to what we wanted to bring to the world, and it just started feeling inevitable that we had to work together. So a half-an-hour meeting turned into 4 hours, and then next week we went back and talked for another 8 hours, and then they came to chair, and pretty quickly it was, we're gonna make a game together, and it's been amazing. The people at Bad Robot are so talented and are so aware of games and what makes them great and how they're fundamentally different than film. And I think when we can talk more about Spyjinx, people are going to be blown away by what we've been able to create together.
I mean, it's got to be cool that a guy who is a huge Infinity Blade fan turns to you and ends up wanting to make a game with you. But what's in the pipeline for Infinity Blade? I mean, we're in 3 now. Anything else you could tell us about, maybe?
Well, so it's interesting. So for us, just because a game was really successful, obviously look at Shadow Complex, right? Just because a game was really successful and won lots of awards doesn't mean we're necessarily making a sequel right away. And yet we made 3 Infinity Blade games. And the reason why we did that wasn't just because it was so successful, it was because, with Infinity Blade, we kind of stumbled into making a new genre of game. And from a design standpoint, at the end of Infinity Blade 1, we felt like we hadn't fully expressed our vision for what that genre could be. And I know this is gonna sound corny, but we really felt like it was our design responsibility to flesh that genre out, to really show what we thought a mid-core, very gamer-centric game could be like on mobile. And it took us Infinity Blade 2 and 3 to fully kind of express that.
And harkening back to a day, one of my very first video game experiences that I actually got to be in, but Advent Rising was a game you guys worked on with Majesco back in the day that was this planned out trilogy, and there was such high hopes for this game. What was it like for you, just involved in that process of creating what was eventually a failed trilogy? But is that something you'd like to dive back into, maybe, if it could ever happen again?
Well, so seriously, I love Advent Rising. It was my first game, right? The first game that I directed, and that we really built from nothing. And we've learned a lot since Advent Rising. There was some key elements in Advent that we still think are just so amazing and so cool. And if I just would have been a little more mature, a little more understanding of the process of making games, I think we really could have done that a little better. But that's great. We've learned so much since then. I would never rule out returning to the Advent universe, but it doesn't matter, because ultimately, at least for me personally, Advent accomplished what it needed to, and that was I got to meet and work with Tommy, right? And I think that the music that we composed, and I'm gonna say we, Tommy, is so beautiful and so amazing, and it's the backbone of video games live, right? It's the core reason for his rock star success is Advent, right? And we were just talking before, I think that was maybe your actorial debut.
Your first game, also mine. The Galactic Senator B spin-off is what I'm anxiously awaiting. So if Advent doesn't work out, you can always make a spin-off game. So that's what I know the guy who did the voice.
So there's one line in the post-credit scene of Advent that I just found out he did the VO for, because Tommy was doing some pickup when we were doing it. And I agree. Galactic Senator B is a great spin-off title. In fact, we're canceling Spyjinx, and that's it. That's our game starting right now.
Done.
This is simply unbelievable.
Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.